Hello and welcome again to another tutorial video. Today I'm going to be going over solving one-step equations. Just a quick vocabulary review. An equation is any time we have something equal to something else. So an equal sign always symbolizes that there's the same thing on both sides. So, for instance, if I have x plus 6 is equal to 3, then I'm trying to make this side equal to the other side, okay? The number that we're missing is called the variable. If there's any number in front of the variable, say I had 2x, then the number 2 would be called a coefficient. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so let's look at this first example. We have x plus 6 equals 4. There's a few rules that we have to follow whenever you're solving an equation. The first rule is to always do the opposite when you're crossing the equal sign. And the second rule is whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So if I have x plus 6 equals 4, the first thing I like to do is draw what I call a river to kind of keep those two parts of the equation separated. And the opposite of plus 6 is going to be minus 6 because my goal is to get x by itself, and in order to get x by itself I need to get rid of that plus 6. So whatever I do to one side I've got to do to the other. The zero's out, I bring down x, and that's going to equal negative 2. Okay, so I'm halfway done because I can easily check whether or not my answer is right by plugging in what I got for x into the original equation. So I'm going to do that. Check. Instead of x, I'm going to plug in a negative 2, and I'm going to follow the rest of the equation. So then I have to ask, does negative 2 plus 6 equal 4? And that is true, so my answer is correct. Okay, here's another example. This time we are subtracting. So when we're subtracting, the opposite or inverse is going to be addition. So even though this problem seems kind of simple, like you might be able to work it in your head, it's always important to show your work because sometimes the problems won't be as obvious and you'll have those skills necessary to solve whatever problem, okay? So in order to get x by itself here, I need to add 3 to both sides. That zeroes this out. Now I just bring down my x. I have 12 plus 3, and that's equal to 15. Next thing left to do is to check. So I'm going to check my answer, plug into the original equation. So I ask myself, does 15 minus 3 actually equal 12? And the answer is yes, it does. So then my answer is correct. Okay, next example. This one is multiplying. So over here by the x, I have a 4 sitting next to it. This is like 4 times x equals 16, or 4 times a number equals 16. So in order to get x by itself, I'm going to do the opposite, which is division. So I'm going to divide 4. This time I'm not trying to get a 0. What I'm trying to do is make the coefficient 1. So by dividing 4, I am going to get 1 there. So x is going to equal, forgot my river, 16 divided by 4 is 4. So there's my answer. Again, next thing I need to do is go back and check. So I plug into the original equation. I find out, does 4 times 4 actually equal 16? And the answer is yes. 16 is equal to 16. My equation's now balanced. I found the unknown. Okay, last problem here. This could be seen a couple of different ways. I see this as kind of like negative 2 times x divided by 5, so it's a little bit of a division problem. Or it could just be seen as negative 2/5 times x, so that's a multiplication problem, okay? Either way, in order to get x by itself, I need to get rid of this negative 2/5 to get x alone and to solve for the unknown variable. So there's a couple ways you can go about this. I'll do the long way first, and then I'll do the short way. So to get rid of the fraction, what I could do is eliminate that denominator first of 5. So to eliminate the denominator, I would multiply both sides by 5. This would become 1. And on the left, I'd be left with negative 2x equals 50. Then I'd have to undo this multiplication, so I'd have to divide by negative 2. So I get x is equal to negative 25. Okay? But since this is one-step equations, there's a way that I can do that in just one step. So let's try to do this. Okay, so same problem. I could do that multiplying by 5, dividing by negative 2 in one step by multiplying what's called the reciprocal. So the reciprocal is when you flip the fraction. So the reciprocal of negative 2/5 would be negative 5 halves. So by doing that, if I multiply these fractions, I'd end up with 10 over 10, which ends up becoming 1. So I've basically made that coefficient 1. Then over here, I have to also multiply by negative 5 halves, because what you do to one side, you've got to do to the other side. So, river drawn, I've made the coefficient of x1. Now over here, all I have to do is multiply those fractions, so I end up again with negative 50 over 2. Reduce that, and I get negative 25. So the last thing to do here would be to check. So if I go back and check my equation, then I would get negative 2/5 times negative 25 is equal to 10. That's my question. So I would end up with 50 over 5. Is 50 over 5 equal to 10? And the answer is yes. So we are done with that problem. Now you have one example of each. I hope this video has helped. If you have any questions, let me know. Have a great night.